Hi, I'm Hazel. It's almost Saturday today, and that makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I've been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, Blizzard might have accidentally confirmed that there is a level squish coming. So here's what happened. Recently this week on news sites, reports have started popping up of players receiving a survey email with questions that heavily imply that a level squish is a done decision that they're definitely doing. So before we get too far into this, I do want to clarify that since I have not seen one myself in the flesh and Blizzard has not officially confirmed anything, I'm not saying that it's fake, I'm just saying that it could be. Use critical thinking with your news is what I'm getting at here. But anyways, the exact phrasing of the first question is, are you aware that the maximum level of 120 will be reduced in the future, i.e. level squish? And then the options are yes or no. Do you know that this is happening? The follow-up question is, the level squish will reduce the total number of levels required to access the most current game content. The new level cap will be dramatically lower than the current level cap of 120. How much would you like or dislike a reduction in total character levels? So like on a scale of 1 to piss, like how mad would you be if we did this, you know? So obviously the wording of the first question implies that it's a done deal, but I think based on the second question that maybe the first question is just worded weirdly. Like if they had already committed to this and were 100% doing it and just finding out whether or not people knew or not, by asking them if they know, why then would they be asking how mad people are going to be? Usually that's something that you do when you're gauging whether or not to do a thing, not after you've already decided when you've done it. That's when you like plug your ears and run away and hope for the best. Or at least that's how it feels sometimes. And, you know, I understand. I do that with videos once in a while when you're like, you've been working on it for a while, but you're not really sure if it's exactly where it needs to be, but it's got its time. So you just chuck it out into the world and then just hope for the best. You know, you're on your own now, little buddy. So my take on it is that they have not committed to it, but they're trying to feel out what the community emotional reaction would be like, because that's kind of the deciding factor. Like, a level squish would solve a lot of very distinct and specific problems that the game suffers from today, and some of those problems are being, like, really highlighted by seeing Live WoW side by side with Classic. The big example is that you can go many levels in Live while you're leveling up without getting a single upgrade, and in the case of BFA leveling, often you're actually getting weaker, which is just so the opposite of what we want RPGs to be. That's, you know, if you level up and you get worse, that's a weird game, and I don't know if I want it. So the level squish would solve that by presumably giving you meaningful things to work towards at every level, because they don't have to come up with 120 things and like feel like they have to make them meaningful. And then the other thing that it solves is the slightly ridiculous situation of when a new player picks up the game and goes, I have to level how many times? Like 120 plus is just a huge number. And no matter how much they squish and scale and speed up the process and add catch-up mechanics, the fact is that it's just a lot. It's a big number to wrap your head around, and it's just kind of an awkward problem. So they can solve some real and specific problems by doing a level squish, and those things are all in the pro column. You know, you can list them out, you can read them, you can go, yep, those would be good. And then in the con column, in like the drawbacks to making this kind of a change, there's definitely drawbacks, but they're like more intangible, they're emotional. It's all about how it would feel if you logged in and you were no longer level 120, instead you were like 60 or 80 or 4. That has an impact, but it's less easy to gauge in terms of like specific metrics. So I think a survey like this is just kind of trying to get a metric on how bad would that be and does this balance out, which is a hard question to answer. I do think that having this whole situation of the leaked survey, which if it actually happened, how on earth did they not see that coming? But I do think that this whole situation actually does give them a lot of that feedback, because now they get not only their survey responses, but just like pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of reactions on every news site and every forum and every YouTube video ever, talking about this breaking news that they may or may not have wanted us to know about yet. Just like a really weird situation, but I guess it gets the job done. As far as how I would feel about a level squish if they actually did one, I think I'm standing behind the thing that I said last time, which is that I would immediately hate it, but kind of get over it after a couple of weeks of being distracted by other new and shiny things going on. And then I will be fine with it after that adjustment period, if and only if they also dramatically reduce the amount of time needed to level to level cap. If I have to level a new alt from 1 to 60, and it takes me just as much time as it took me to level 1 to 120, even if I can get more meaningful things along the way, I don't know if that's going to feel right to me. So I would prefer that change to come along with either a reduced amount of time needed to reach max level, or improved heirlooms. You know, like if you really want people to have the cinematic experience the first time leveling, then just buff up the things that people are getting for their second time, you know, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I might change my mind over time. I have been thinking a little bit about the culture of alts in retail WoW, especially as it compares to classic WoW, which is a good example of when you'd have to play a lot if you wanted to have relevant alts. And being able to play content on different characters and different classes and different setups offers some benefits in terms of being able to try out different classes. But you also end up feeling like a little bit less attached to the story of your one character, and sometimes the best way to do things is by running them on many characters that you have no investment in. So that's like a different conversation, but I think it's an interesting one to have. And like it or not, the leveling experience and how easy or painful it is to level directly ties into how many alts people are going to have. I also do think that if they decide to go ahead with a level squish, they're going to have to announce it like right alongside or buried underneath some really good news. Like either sneak it out right when Classic launches and everybody's like focused on that, or announce it at BlizzCon in the middle of an expansion announcement and just like sandwich it right in between like a new puppy pet and a baby dolphin mount. I think would be like the only way that people aren't going to be immediately furious about this. I also think it's something that should be announced medium close to coming out if they're gonna do it. Like you don't want to give people too much time to cement themselves in their hatred of it before they get to try it out, but you also want to give enough time for it to go through its beta process and fix any bugs, of which I'm sure there's going to be a lot, and also sort of like smooth out as much of it as you can, assuming that it's happening, which we don't know yet. Speaking of WoW news leaks, in an article published by Wowhead crediting user Fabian, there is a brand new hint pointing to future Vulpera as an allied race. So up until this point, I have been a theoretical Vulpera hater. Like, I'm not mad at the idea of them as an allied race. I just thought that it wasn't going to happen. And this changed my mind. So what they found was a specific entry for Vulpera in the allied race section of race conditions for in-game cutscenes. So a piece of text in the data that determines something about how your character is portrayed in cutscenes. I'm not going to pretend to understand everything, but I do know there's a big list of allied races, and Vulpera is right in there, and this was added in 8.15, I believe. I'll fact check that. And that is by far the most convincing evidence that I've seen for Vulpera coming as an allied race to date, I now believe. So I think I'm on the train of Vulpera as an allied race in either 8.25 or 8.3, probably 8.3, although they have done allied races in a 0.5 patch before. I think that they will probably come along, like there's three scenarios. I think either A, they come alongside Mechanomes and Alliance gets Mechanomes and Horde gets Vulpera. I think that's the most likely situation. B, the thing that's less likely, but I would be excited about, is if they flip those. Like, I know this doesn't make sense story-wise, so they wouldn't do it. It has to make sense in the story, whatever, but like, I want Horde to be able to experience the joy of having playable gnomes. And both factions ally with the Rust Bolt Resistance in 8.2. And also both factions have friendly dealings with Vulpera in Vol'dun. Obviously the Horde has a more elaborate storyline with them, but everybody's, you know, on speaking terms mostly, I think. So they could do that, or they could make them both neutral, or they could just scrap Mechanomes and do just Vulpera and have them be neutral again. I think a neutral allied race is more likely than it would initially seem, because I think a lot of the struggle of making Pandaren as an allied race is this whole like subplot of having them be neutral and on their own contained zone before they picked a faction, so you can't run into any weird you don't have a faction yet stuff. And they don't really have to do that with allied races. They can just give each of them an embassy in the city and just be like, well, these ones like the Horde and these ones think blue matches their fur. So like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. They could just give it to both factions they've set precedent before. So, you know, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I do think they're coming, and I don't know if I'll have an alt. I like collecting allied race alts. They're kind of like dolls that I keep on my login screen shelf. In lack of news, we still don't have a release date for patch 8.2. It's halfway through June yet. I'm a little incredulous. I can't believe it's taking them this long, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. In the meantime, things that I've been up to, I tried Classic WoW for the first time this week. I have a stream VOD of that's been posted on my channel, and I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I thought I would not enjoy it at all, and also be afraid to say that I didn't enjoy it because it has a very passionate fan base. But as it turns out, more fun than I thought. I can definitely see some advantages that it has over retail. I don't think I would be switching anytime soon. I adore retail too much to ever let it go or let another game like share a major part of my life. But I think for now, at least, I could see having just like one day a week that's like a classic stream day just to sort of fit like a little bit of it in. I think that I would want to, funnily enough, play classic casually, which is, I think, silly because that's like the whole point of classic was that it's not casual, it's for gamers. But it is, though. It's not hard. It's tedious. It's time consuming. It's not difficult. Nothing about classic so far is difficult. It's just, it's just slower. It's just much slower pace. It's just different. So I'm going to try that at least once a week, I think, on stream. And then I think my goal, I've been playing a dwarf priest with the intention of being a shadow priest. I think my goal would be like, I don't even want to worry about instance content. It doesn't look that gripping to me, but I do want to pick flowers and then make potions and then sell those to people. That sounds like fun. Speaking of streaming more, I have started streaming on Twitch. I talked about this last week. I actually did it. I did my first couple of Twitch streams. Thank you to everybody that came out to those, and I'm going to continue doing that in addition to my YouTube streams, at least for a couple of, at least for a month or two, or until I decide that it's a bad idea. So I have finally put together a stream schedule. Here is the announcement. I'm going to be streaming mornings, Sunday, Monday, Twitch, Tuesday, YouTube, and then afternoons, Wednesday, Thursday, Twitch, Friday, YouTube. If this turns out to be too much, then I will adjust it as needed, and if I want to do more, then I will. But the moral of this story is, if you like to watch streams, please follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hazelnuttygames. I would love to hang out with you guys on a platform that matches my hair. And outside of WoW this week, if anybody cares, I have a follow-up to my lemon seed story. I have my first ever baby sprout. So this picture was from yesterday. I had my first sprout come up. It was its birthday. I'm a very proud lemon tree seedling mom. And as of this morning, I have at least 2 more joining it. So I hope I don't kill them. And I'm very excited. Questions from this week. Forge Master Garzvog asks, I'm new to the Shadow Priest spec and I was wondering how to avoid outdoing the tank in threat generation. First of all, weird flex. I'm kidding, but kind of. So advice number 1 is keep your fade button handy. That is your get out of threat free button. And then outside of that, it's a tank issue. Like if you want to be really conscientious, you can have target of target enabled so you can see exactly which mob your tank is hitting and then focus your single target DPS on that one. Often a good idea anyways, but I've never done that and I never pull aggro, and I mean, maybe I just don't ball as hard as you. You'll figure it out. Or your tank will, one of those 2 things. Margot asks, fish question for you. I have a 5.5 gallon betta tank, excellent betta tank size, first of all. Started to notice some kind of brown algae developing on the walls and the rocks, getting worse. Not sure what's causing it, did some research online, but couldn't find a clear answer. So first of all, I will say that fish research online will ruin your life and also help you out a lot. It's like the most frustrating thing because there's no like, everybody thinks they're right, and the only real data anybody's working off of is their own experiences, which are different from person to person, and people get really judgy. But anyways, so brown algae, new tank, almost certainly brown diatom algae, which actually isn't algae at all, but that's, you know, just a fun fact. So what's happening is your new tank and possibly your gravel is releasing silicates into the water. It's completely harmless, but brown diatoms will eat those. They'll pop up for a while. It's just like a temporary problem. It should clean off really easily. So just like soft brush, finger if you have any plants, wipe it right off. It'll come back and you wipe it off and it'll come back. And after like a couple of months, it'll stop coming back. It's a temporary problem and happens to almost every new tank. And just in general, quick note about algae, it is almost never harmful to your fish. Like the only things that are really going to be a problem in an average home aquarium is maybe you have like hair algae that is so long that your fish gets stuck, which is rare. So algae is something that we're all working on. You know, most people deal with it in some form or another, but generally the worst case scenario is that it looks kind of bad and maybe it covers your plants. It can kill plants if it covers them completely, but your fish is going to be fine. Also, see if you can get your light on a timer. I have like a cheap Christmas light automatic timer I have it plugged into, but that ensures that it's on for exactly the same amount of time per day. That will help algae problems a lot. Alyssa, which now makes more sense, I've realized as I've read it, asks, question, can we get a houseplant tour since you're nearing 30? Also, how do you keep your cat specifically from plants that are not pet safe? Also, do you name your houseplant or are you far more normal than I am? So first of all, as far as a houseplant tour, good idea. I'm going to file that away in the good idea bank along with the other things that are good ideas that I might get to one day. I have such a queue. And as far as keeping the cat away from plants that she should not be messing with, I use aluminum foil under, like, anywhere that I don't want the cat to walk. So we also use this to keep her away from the dog food. Cats generally, most of them do not want to step on tinfoil. So I just have it like on the windowsill underneath the plants, and then she won't walk on that to get to them. And just kind of like, you know, taking a look at the environment to make sure there's no place for her to stand and sit while she's like messing with them. But for the most part, she leaves them alone. And sadly, I do not name my houseplants anymore. I used to. I don't think that you're weird. I used to name them, but then I started forgetting the names. And then I went through a phase where I like had to know the scientific name of every cultivar. And I still do that a little bit, and it's really obnoxious. LB asks, would you play Classic if the armor you get in Classic goes into your transmog collection in BFA? I don't think so. I wouldn't be mad just in general, like a little off topic, but I wouldn't be too mad if they did a cross-game promotion where playing in Classic a certain amount got you something in Live WoW. I wouldn't be surprised to see them be like, reach level 10 in Classic and get a horse mount, you know, kind of like they've done with like Heroes or whatever. But Transmog specifically, I've really preferred like the more new stuff. I was gonna say modern, but it's not like trends change too much. Like Warlords and Onward, I think, are my favorite expansions for Transmog. Nicole asks, what other games do you play outside of WoW? So currently right now, I have dusted off my Switch and I'm catching up on Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I got it for my birthday last year and didn't quite finish it, and I'm starting it over again because I want to be like caught up, at least in my brain, before Sword and Shield come out. After that, I'm planning on giving Breath of the Wild another try. We had it for the Wii U, but I want to try it on Switch. And then just generally speaking, I love Dark Souls games, and I am due for a Dark Souls 3 playthrough. Ryan asks, how do I go about finding new guilds and friends to hang out with? I've applied to many, not gotten any response, wondering if you know of good sites to find guilds or ways to go about finding a good crew. So my normal advice if you're looking for a raiding guild is to pug into raiding guilds as often as you can, because then you'll find people that are looking for your role. If you're looking for more of a social guild or like a slightly more casual for like questing and leveling together and dungeons and like the social thing, I don't have firsthand experience of successfully doing this, so my advice could be dumb. But there are active Realm forums. So if you go to the WoW website and you go to forums, there should be a forum for your server specifically. And looking through those, I found there is a good amount of guild recruitment going on. So I just say keep applying, keep your hopes up. I'm assuming it goes a lot like applying for jobs or dates online. You just fire out an awful lot of requests and hope for the best. Also, another thing to consider is maybe think of what you want in a guild. Again, something I haven't done, so it might be dumb advice, but like really think of exactly what you want in a guild and how you would want it to run, and then be the guild that you want in your life. I feel like I've heard so many questions from people like you that, you know, their guild fell apart and they're looking for more of them. There's so many people looking for guilds that I feel like just a couple more guild leaders in the world would really do everybody some good. And that has been my week. Thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, Twitch stream plug, Hazelnuttygames on Twitch. I am doing my best over there and very much appreciate all of you guys hanging out with me. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on a vlog, please leave it in the comments of the most recent one and include the word question. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.